deadbeat parents, they deserve nothing, not even a bangolo of rice. If you are going to abandon your child, do not expect that in the future you can emotionally manipulate them or use people. You never hear them tell fathers, if you know you are here and you have a child somewhere that you're not taking care of, go back and restitute. Go back and do what you ought to do as a father. Just the other day, a video made rounds on social media. In this video, a man identified himself as Asake's dad. He said that he has partial stroke and that his child, Asake, has not been taking care of him financially. Ever since this video came out, a lot of people have had different things to say about the family. Some of them even claiming that they know the family. But that's not why we are here. In fact, Asake is not why we are here. Because sometimes I draw examples from real life happenings, celebrities, people around us, but it has little to do about them, but more about the society that we live in and how we can learn from whatever it is that is going on. So this has little to or nothing to do with the whole Asake story. For all we know, people could be lying, any of the parties involved could be lying, but that's not the focus. I feel the need to include this. Now, whenever I talk about someone or make an example out of them in my videos, that doesn't mean that the video is about them. That doesn't mean that, it has to be, it is not about these people, whether negative or positive, it is not about these people, because we don't know these people. Like I always say, we never really know what's going on unless we actually really know. We never know what's going on, right? So it is not really about them, but what we can learn from the events surrounding them. So it's not about them. We don't know these people. We can't say with authority that this is what is going on. We don't know these people. That's it. So this isn't really about them. It's about us. It's about what we can learn. It's about how we can take whatever it is that has happened and learn from it. Not just learn from it, but implement what we have learned in our own lives. Thank you. So why are we here? We are here because that video sparked a conversation on whether or not a deadbeat father, that is a father who was not present at all in any way or form in the life of his child, is entitled to financial help or assistance from the same child when the child grows. Now, does this mean that Asake's dad was a deadbeat? Absolutely not. Like I said earlier, we do not know the whole story. We do not know what happened, and we are not members of their family. Okay? We are just talking about the conversation that video sparked and how that relates to everyday life and the lives of Africans and Nigerians. All right, I'll tell you what I think. Is a father who was absent in the life of his child entitled to help from the same child when the child grows? I think the F not. Nah, he's not entitled to anything from that child. If you did not invest in your child, you have no right whatsoever to require or demand or request anything of that child when the child grows. You did not contribute to the growth of the child, even though it was your responsibility to contribute to the growth of the child. So when the child grows, you have no right to ask anything of the child. And if you ask anything of that child, it is at the discretion of the child to decide whether or not they can help you. They might decide to, due to their own magnanimity. They might decide not to. Either ways, they are correct, they are right. Imagine a world where fathers who do nothing, who were not present financially, were not present emotionally, were practically unavailable all through their children's formative years. Imagine a world where those kinds of fathers now get the same reward from their children as fathers who were present, decent, financially responsible. Is that even fair? If being a good father will get me the same reward as being a bad father, then what is the incentive to be a good father? I do not believe that fathers who are absent and fathers who are present should be treated the same way. If you as a child decide to be kind to or generous to your absentee parent in the future, that is your prerogative. No judgment here. It is your choice. You can do whatever you want. However, if you also decide to not help them, to be absent from their lives, how they were absent from your life, I 100% support you. The normal thing should be that if as a father, you are absent from the lives of your children reserve the right to be absent from your life. That is how it should be. That is the normal, that should be the norm. So imagine my shock when I got onto Twitter, and I know it's called X now. Ain't nobody calling me X in some way. Like, X? I don't like that name, sorry. Anyway, I got onto Twitter and started seeing comments of people talking about how someone even said, even if your father was absent, you have no right to judge him. What? Someone even started talking about how he's blocking people for being so bitter and being so. But anyway, that's just the norm. In Nigeria, bitter is the fancy word for being reasonable, for being logical, and for for not being a doormat, basically. So yeah, it's good. I'm used to people calling people bitter for just not agreeing to whatever it is that they want. So the thing is, how can you think that a person is bitter for saying that people should be paid in their own coin? If you were not present in the life of a child, why do you want to be present in their lives after they are grown and have become somebody? Why? You did not deposit, so why should you withdraw? What rights do you have to withdraw from there? But a lot of Nigerians seem to think that all it takes to be a parent is to just birth you. They see it as some sort of, oh, just take it, like, at least you gave birth, at least you didn't die, at least you're alive. Nigerians will say things like, oh, he's still your father, even though you don't actually even know that person. He's still your father, just take him back, just do whatever you, just do your own for God. No, that is abuse. Listen, a lot of Nigerians are abuse compliant. They comply to abuse. They accept abuse. And when they see people who do not accept abuse like them, they get very triggered and very angry. Nigerians are more angry at people who reject abuse and abusers than actual abusers themselves. How can you be more mad at someone who was rejected as a child than you are at an adult who rejected his own child, his own blood? Why do you have so much anger for people who refuse to tolerate abusers, people who refuse to take them back, people who refuse to just comply, people who refuse to comply? Why do you have so much anger against them? And none of that anger is reserved for these abusers. They will now say, oh, I'm not saying what he did was right. Actually, you are saying what he did was right. But if you're not saying what he did was right, why are you supporting him? Why are you speaking out for men who abandon their children? One of my Facebook friends said the other day that a lot of Nigerians pride themselves in being abuse compliant. And I cannot think of anything truer than this. A lot of Nigerians do this thing where they rally behind abusers and then try to pressure the victims. They add so much pressure on victims and then they leave the abusers be. And it should not be that way. We claim to love children. We claim to believe that children are gifts from God. But when a parent abandons that gift from God, we expect the child to just snap out of it. It doesn't work that way. It is even easier to reject an adult. It is easier for an adult to accept rejection than a child. A lot of people are in their 50s and in their 40s and they're still dealing with the pain that comes with being rejected as children by the people who should be the primary people in their lives, their parents. A lot of people still suffer from serious abandonment issues because their fathers worked out on them as children. A lot of people lived in poverty because their parents, their fathers abandoned them. And a lot of Nigerians expect that these children who were rejected as children grow up and suddenly become nice to the parents because of God. Come on. How is that fair to the child? How is that fair to fathers who are present? If you expect children to be present in the lives of parents who were present for them, and you expect children to be present in the lives of parents who were not present, how is that fair to parents who were present? How is that not disrespectful to present parents, to parents who go all out for their children, when at the end of the day, these two parents get the same reward? If you abandon your child, then you should abandon them for the rest of your life. Do you get? If you are going to abandon your child, do not expect that in the future you can emotionally manipulate them or use people. And this is another form of manipulation, something that is very common with abusers. Abusers know that a lot of Nigerians are abuse compliant. Abusers know that a lot of Nigerians are enablers. Abusers know that a lot of Nigerians are fly monkeys. So they will use those people to get to you. They will use those people to manipulate you into giving them what they want from you. They will use God to manipulate. They will use anything at their disposal to manipulate you. And that is why I keep saying that the world is actually behind abusers. The world does not care about punishing abusers. The world is more interested in punishing people who do not comply to abuse than they are about punishing actual abusers. A lot of Nigerians, I'm going to say it again, are abuse compliant. They are enablers. They enable abuse. A lot of people enable abuse in this country, especially when the abuse is against a woman, and the child. People enable abuse. They expect victims of abuse to just take it in and just act like nothing happened, for their own peace, for their own sanity, so that they can just whitewash everything and move it. No, it doesn't work like that. And thankfully, we are coming into a place. We're not nearly there yet. We're not even close, but we are getting there. We're getting to that place where people no longer have space in their hearts for parents who rejected them, as it should be. As it should be. If you want to forgive your parents, whatever, as long as you're doing it on your own terms, you're not being forced into it, that's your choice, that's your business, right? But don't try to insist that other people should follow that path. In fact, trying to insist that other people should follow that path is a clear indication that you did not go through the stages of forgiveness before forgiving your abusive parent or partner or whoever. People who have truly forgiven, people who have gone through the stages of forgiveness know one thing, and that is the fact that forgiveness cannot be rushed. So a lot of people do this thing where they expect that because they forgave their parents, every other person must forgive their parents. Please do not expect you from other people. Experiences are different, and even the same experience can be experienced in different ways by different people. So the fact that you were able to maybe just move on from whatever it was that your parents did and forgave them doesn't mean that everyone has to do the same thing that you have done. For many of you, let's even be for real, for many people, they do not actually forgive those parents. They just shove it in. They just shove, like that's another thing that a lot of Nigerians do. They say, oh, I've forgiven you, but they actually have not forgiven. They just shove it in and they become numb. Because a lot of Nigerians are so numb, so unempathetic. The empathy is gone. They now lack it because they never even took time to process their own pain. They never took time to even acknowledge that there is a pain somewhere. That's why they become people who lack empathy, who are wicked. And they never ever consider these children. They never think, oh, what has this child been? What has this child been through? I wonder what this child has. I wonder, whenever people hear about maybe a child abandoning a parent and whatever, they just start castigating the child. Even when maybe they get on to hear that the parent was not a present parent or was an abusive parent, instead of them to say, oh, I wonder what a parent would do to make the child be so callous towards them, they say, oh, he's still your father, he's still your mother, she's still your mother, that's still your parent, just leave it for God. Like, what is that? What is that? They never try to dig deep. You go to church, you hear pastors say things like, oh, if there's anybody you've not forgiven, forgive the person now, forgive your father, forgive your parents, forgive. You will never hear them tell parents, especially fathers, you will never hear them tell fathers, if you know you are here and you have a child somewhere that you're not taking care of, go back and restitute. Go back and do what you ought to do as a father in the life of that child. If you know you're here and you're a father, under no circumstance should you abandon your child for whatever reason. You will never hear them say that. And that is to show you that these people co-sign abuse. You will never hear them talk to abusers. Their focus is always on victims forgiving. A society that is more interested in seeking the forgiveness of victims than it is in admonishing and creating consequences for abusers is an abusive society. You can't say you don't support abuse when all you do when you've heard of a situation of abuse is pressure victims to forgive. You can't say you don't support abuse when you never preach against abuse. All you do is preach for victims to forgive, to accept their fate, to let go and let God. That is abuse. And many people don't know this, but that is why a lot of Nigerians lack empathy. They even show more empathy to abusers than they show to victims of abuse. It is very easy for anybody to just come out and say, oh, I'm going through this and this, my child has abandoned me, and everybody will pounce on that child. But they never think to ask, what exactly has that child dealt with? They never stop to wonder what exactly made this child this way. I wonder what this child dealt with as a child that has made him or her this way. They don't care. Their own is, oh, just forgive and let's go. If you don't forgive, you're a bitter person. You're bitter. All these people that are saying you should not forgive, they are bitter people. You know the saddest thing in all this? The fact that when you do not create consequences for fathers like this, when you do not create consequences for absent fathers, for deadbeat fathers, you embolden and enable other men to do the same thing to their children. When you create a society where a man can just abandon his child for 20 years, come back when the child is rich or when the child is just really doing well for themselves, maybe even in an average way, and then you pressure these children to forgive those parents, you create a world where a man can abandon his child without any consequence. Think about your actions. Think about these things before you do them. Because if you're one of those people that pressure victims to forgive their abusers, you are an abuse supporter. You are an abuse apologist. There is really nothing you can say. There is no defense. If you rally behind the abuser to pressure a victim to forgive, to forget, to comply, you are merely an abuser yourself. And you're creating a bad society. It's people like you who actually create bad societies, not people who encourage the victims to handle issues the way they want to handle it. You are the ones who are creating a bad society. Okay, that's it for today. And remember, deadbeat parents, they deserve nothing. Not even a pangolo of rice.